wonderful good evening to you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out to support the platform and the crusade of the Barbados Labour Party. Tonight, as I speak to you, in the shadow of the great liberator, the Right Excellent Buster, I come tonight to bring a message of hope. A message of hope to all of the Barbadians who are living under the brutality of DLP government and DLP taxation. And I've come to bring a message of hope to those who had faith in the financial system of Barbados and in CLICO, and they took insurance policies and made investments and do not know now whether they are coming or going, or whether they can believe the words of 2 prime ministers and 2 ministers of finance and the governor of the central bank. I've come tonight to join that discussion to bring you to a message of hope. But tonight I have to start by saying that I'm proud to be a member and the leader of the Barbados Labour Party. We have 74 distinguished years of service to the people of Barbados. And you must believe me when I tell you that we have deep and rich veins of institutional resilience on which to draw. And tonight I've come in the shadow of Buster to tell you that we will not fail you. We will liberate you. And I know that there are some of you who feel that we have issues to address before we can give you the assurance that we will not fail you. And tonight I have come to put some things to rest. This party will go into the next election as a united force, with all of us pulling together on the same rope in the same direction. We know what it is to put service above self and country above party. And tonight I am going to start from this platform the process of binding up the wounds of the Barbados Labour Party. So, Mayor Motley, thank you for coming to speak the way you spoke. And may I have work for you to do. On the 12th of March, you will reply to Chris Sinclair's presentation of the estimate Rotterdam. Going into the fight, one team pulling together on the same rope in the same direction. And then Motley, when Chris Sinclair brings his budget, you will reply to it rather than me. In the same direction, because we must not fail Barbados. And you know, tonight I have a little personal matter to deal with before I come to you. The last time a leader of a party spoke at this spot, he brandished a check that I received from CLICO. From not CLICO, an agency of CLICO. And he made it appear as if it was some dishonest act for some dishonest payment for some dishonest act on my part. I'm glad that Mariana Brown has at last spoken, because the check came from him And there are many checks that were given as campaign contributions in that campaign, because politicians don't have the money to pay for campaigns. We get help from companies.
All over the world.
And Mariana, I don't want you to talk about who else get checks, because I feel you should allow the dead to rest in peace. And I don't want you to say how big that check was, because I want the dead to rest in peace. But I want to say to the nation that they should finish the conversation with Mariana Brown, and he will tell them, and it will amuse you when you hear the real facts. What was the purpose behind the check that was given to me? And I ask the nation to call him tomorrow and tell him, give us the rest of the facts, so that this matter can be put to rest once and for all. And to you I say, it is well with my soul. Tonight, members of the Barbados Party have spoken with great clarity about the nastiness, the greatest act of robbery that has taken place in the Caribbean since the days of the pirates and the buccaneers. And I'm not going to go back over the ground that they covered. But I want to say first that the CLICO issue is not just only about Leroy Paris and David Thompson. The CLICO issue involved the entire Democratic Labour Party. It is precisely the reason why the Democratic Labour Party does not merit your confidence to be returned as a government in this country again. And why do I say that? It involves all of them. Because the DLP has created a culture and an environment in this country within which a debacle such as this which has taken place at CLICO could take root and be fostered and nurtured in this country. And what is that culture of which I speak? First of all, at the center of the CLICO issue is a disregard for the rule of law and a disregard and disrespect for authority in this country. And what else do you expect from CLICO if even before a general election the Democratic Labour Party showed that it was not prepared to abide by the laws of this country? Do you remember the things that they put up along the the billboards? Disregard for the law. That was before they became the government. And what have they done since they have become the government? The Transport Board Act says that the Transport Board is not authorized, it is forbidden to sell in energy products. But they say to hell with the law. Let us let the Transport Board do that which the law say must not be done. And the Water Authority does not provide for an executive chairman, but they say voice one on them because they have no respect for the law. And it should not come as a surprise to you if Paris, who is a deep then, believes that if the law don't apply to the Democratic Labour Party, it does not apply to him. So how have we gotten ourselves in this situation with CLICO? 2006, Supervisor of Insurance tell Paris, do not sell those annuities to companies. He said to hell with the law. And in 2009, the Supervisor of Insurance again told Paris, do not sell any more policies. Paris said to hell with the law. So the Democratic Labour Party has created a climate within which a villain like Paris can feel that he can break the law of this land with impunity. And secondly, this Democratic Labour Party's administration is characterized by a special kind of inertia. Friend Stuart, as I have often said, is a little distance from his own body, observing his actions without facility. It is unfair to call him a nuisance because at least a nuisance sometimes will do something. But it is not something you can laugh at. What has happened in this matter? Guyana has fixed its CLICO problem. Bahamas has fixed its CLICO problem. Trinidad and Tobago are fixing their CLICO problem. But 3 years after the fact, so deep and entrenched is the inertia at the center of the Democratic Labour Party that not a man nor a woman affected by what Paris and Thompson has done can get a peep out of this government as regards how their circumstances are going to be addressed. The CLICO debacle is also indicative of an administration that does not believe in accountability. And let me just tell you what I mean by that. As chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, I have asked that meetings of the Public Accounts Committee should be convened. To begin by asking the Auditor General to present to us his last report. Now many of you would not have read it. But the Auditor General's report for 2010 speaks about a degree of willingness on the part of ministers and ministries of the Barbados Democratic Labour Party not to be accountable by having the audits of their departments audited. And we could end up, for the first time in the history of this country, where a whole term of government expires and agencies of the government don't have their books audited, no financial reports prepared. And these are some of the institutions in Barbados that have not had an audit done, so you don't know what is happening in their financial affairs. Have not had an audit done since 2008. The Barbados Tourism Authority spending money on tourism, but we don't know how it is being spent. And somebody got to give us an account of the Rihanna show. The Barbados Tourism Investment Corporation have not had audited statements since 2007. The National Housing Corporation, Lashley Enterprises if you please, have not had audited reports done under the Democratic Labour Party. 4 years. The National Cultural Foundation, not an audit under the D's. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital, not an audit under the Democratic Labour Party. The Rural Development Commission, the Transport Board, the Urban Development Commission, and ladies and gentlemen, the worst of all are the Constituency Council. And I ask you not to believe me, but to pick up the Auditor General's report and go to page 54, and this is what you get to see. The accounts of constituency councils. Section 9(1) of the Constituency Councils Act requires each council to keep proper accounts. The provisions of this act were not adhered to as follows. And this is who's spending our money on DLP politics. There was no evidence to show that monthly bank reconciliation statements have been prepared. Now, ordinary housewives do this, but the constituency councils are not even making bank reconciliation statements. The absence of bank reconciliation statements could expose the councils to the risk of unauthorized transactions when detected. And secondly, financial statements were not prepared and presented to the audit for each council as required by the law. Can you be surprised, therefore, if all across the Democratic Labour Party government there is no willingness of anybody to stand and be accountable and have any audits done? Can you be surprised that at CLICO there is no accountability? That is the culture. That is the culture. So boards of directors are now pleading ignorance to establish innocence, when they should have been holding Paris to account. They are telling us they did not know. But I'm saying that all of this could only happen in a government that says one thing about transparency and does something else. I could go on. It is about the fatted calf. It is about cutting deals. But the Democratic Labour Party has made Paris possible by over time building an incestuous political relationship with CLICO. And I know it did not start after 2008. David Thompson is up to his eyes in all of the nasty transactions that CLICO and Paris were involved in that have brought us to this sorry state where over $350 million now may have to be found to fix CLICO. And I know I was a Minister of Finance. CLICO applied for an offshore bank. They wanted a license to have an offshore bank in Barbados when they was the Minister of Finance. Can you imagine what would have happened to Barbados and the Caribbean if I had agreed to give CLICO an offshore banking license? And they said no, on the advice of the governor of the central bank. And I got a stinging letter from David Thompson to show reasons why. And every time I said no to CLICO as Minister of Finance, Thompson was in my skin. When they wanted a radio license, when they wanted to cut up the lands in St. John, and I said no, that CLICO bought those lands for agricultural purposes, and I said no. And every time I said no, David Thompson draw large sums of money for writing a humbugging me about trying to protect the public interest in this country. And I say that what is happening in CLICO binds David Thompson and the whole Democratic Labour Party. And I again want to know how much money over time they've put in the Democratic Labour Party, because they've told the public already by issuing checks that they gave us how much money they gave us. And I want to know how many members of the Democratic Labour Party have received loans in CLICO organized by Paris, and for what purpose, and what is the state of those loans. We need to know. I got to deal with some other matters. I need to deal with some other matters. This matter of CLICO coincides with a situation where the people of this country, the ordinary men, ordinary working women, are sucking salt. And for some of them, there's a double whammy. You're having to face the loss of your income that has ensued from the taxation policies of the Democratic Labour Party. I know it may sound like a simple matter, but the withdrawal of that allowances for many people is tantamount to 8% pay cut. And there are some people who are having and can't cope with the increase in the VAT. the removal of the income tax allowances. The rises in energy prices because of DLP taxation policies. And while they're doing that, they can't get their monthly interest on the investments that they made in CLICO. So there's a section of our society where people are facing a double injustice. Punished by taxes and charges of the Democratic Party. Have investments that they should be getting the interest on, or have insurance policies that have matured and can't get the money from CLICO. So tonight they have come to deal with both. But yes, we must fix CLICO, but we must also fix that horrible travail that the Democratic Party have inflicted upon the people of this country. And I don't want anybody to tell me that it can't be done, that you can't give back the allowances. In 1994, David Thompson and I shared the same financial year. And the manufacturers and the agriculture said us remove the duties and taxes on our inputs. He said he couldn't do it. The same argument you're hearing now, the government can't afford it. And it became the Minister of Finance, and the first thing he says, look, show some confidence in this country, remove the duties and the taxes on agriculture. And I'm being told that they don't know how to remove give back the allowances, and that the government can't do it. And they say, look, if they can't do it, turn it back over to us. Because I know how to do it. We've been tried, tested, and proven. Giving back taxes. When we became the government in 1994, what we found, people, we pay taxes on income above 13,000, we moved that to 25. In the country. They had a top tax rate of 40%, we dropped that to 35. And we dropped the lower one from 25 to 20. In the country. We restored all the allowances, including the allowances that the Dems have just taken away. We give it back mortgage interest. For companies, the companies in Barbados were paying taxes at 40%. As Minister of Finance, I dropped it to 25. Small businesses in this country were paying taxes of 40% of the profit. We dropped it to 12.5%. Companies involved in building, paying taxes at 40 in 1994. We dropped it to 12.5%. You used to pay land tax on all of your house values. We gave you the first 150,000 in land tax. Free, values free, and drop the rates. We found property transfer tax at 7.5. We drop it to 2.5. So that we have a whole history in the Barbados Labour Party. I'm showing that we can manage this country and manage it in a way that allows people to have money in their pockets, man. In your pocket is what helped this country to grow, and it what helped us to bring down unemployment from 26% to 6%. And why? It is simple, you know. It is not rocket science. In our country, 24% of the economy depends upon exports, but 76% depends upon domestic demand. It is therefore a folly, once it got the foreign exchange, and that's $2.7 billion in foreign exchange. If you have the foreign exchange, let domestic demand, with Barbadians having money in their pockets to spend, help you to bring about growth in this country. That is what we did for 14 years. And that is why there can be no growth in Barbados. No! Because the government is beating you into the ground with taxes. And tonight I have come to tell the DLP, if you don't know how to do it, turn it back over to us. And from the line, I'm not into the philosophy. I don't have to quote Aristotle and Plato and Horace and the Greek and all that. I got one simple message for you. I want to put back money in the pockets of the people. And it has to be done. And it can be done. And when we say that there's another way. Now look, to give back the allowances, it's $50 million. $50 million. It will make all of the difference. I got a lot to say. Brandon Stewart. I will glad to say that. Brandon Stewart. You don't only have to move away from the policy and taxes, but the Democratic Labour Party is preaching to you a false ideology. That they are interested in building a society, they are not interested in building an economy. Well, look. For me, this is like deja vu. But you're interested in building, you're interested in society transformation. You're not interested in building an economy. In a way, of course, it is because the Democratic Labour Party knows that throughout our entire history, the Barbados Labour Party has been wonderful in building an economy. And you can't build a society unless you build an economy. Youngsters in this crowd do not know that the tourism industry in Barbados began with Grandy Adams. He brought it here, not Barrow. That manufacturing began with Grandy Adams. He created a development board. And that we were thrown out of office in 1961 after building the Deepwater Harbour and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And having the most rampant growth in Barbados ever experienced. And Tom Adams' administration was noted for economic management. And the international business industries and the offshore sector is Tom Adams' special gift to Barbados. And in 14 years, and I need to say so, the administration that I had the honor to lead found this country in its deepest recession, and we brought you out and put you on the promised land. 14 years of growth. We left an economy growing at 4.5%. In our last year, our foreign exchange reserve without borrowing $350 million. We left $2.7 billion in the central bank. Put Barbados beyond any possibility of having a foreign exchange crisis. But above all, found unemployment at 24% and left it at 6%. The greatest act of economic stewardship by any administration in the history of this country. And we are anxious and ready to do it again because it can be done again. But you know, this thing about society, for me it is deja vu. I lived in Jamaica. I was there. And Michael Manley had this concept of social transformation of Barbados, of Jamaica. He wasn't interested in, when you tell them, and it was in the planning agency then, when you tell them, but you got to manage the deficit. You got to increase the reserves. You have to have growth. Michael Manley was telling you about this grand social vision for Jamaica. And the economy did not matter. And what happened? From 1974 to 1978, what happened in Jamaica happened. What happened in here now happened in Jamaica. No growth. And it has consigned Jamaica to a generation of decline and backwardness. When I went to Jamaica in 1971, Jamaica was more advanced than Barbados. The first time I ever saw a shopping mall was in Jamaica. And you know, when I hear, therefore, in my country, people repeating a mistake that was made with disastrous effects elsewhere, I say, Barbados, come away from this nonsense. You cannot build a society unless you build a strong economy at the center of it. And if from the start and the dams need to be repudiated, it is because they want to force that nonsense on sensible people in this country. So come away from that. But I want to deal with CLICO. I want to say something that is very direct. The Democratic Party will want you to have it believe that I should have done something about CLICO. I wish to God that I had been put in a position where I could have done something about it. I would have humbugged them. And I say that to say this. The Insurance Act requires that a statutory fund must be maintained. But the regulation and supervision of that matter falls entirely to the supervisor of insurance. Our financial institutions are written to do not allow a minister to interfere. And you know what is so sad about this? On one occasion they sought to interfere with a financial institution. I called the banks of Barbados and told them to give a man from Julian a break. You remember that? Yes. Neville Rowe? Yes. And the Financial Stability Forum wrote a report that Barbados is a well-regulated institution, but there's one blemish, that the Minister of Finance sought to reach into the financial system and require the banks to give a loan to a man who didn't deserve it. Point I'm making is this, that there was no statutory deficit reported before we left office. The first time it was reported was in 2008. 2008. But this matter about CLICO is not just about the statutory deficit. Can we have one meeting there, please, sir?
He's a dame.
This matter about CLICO is about an incestuous relationship that allowed intercompany transactions to be used to take money from the insurance policy and to be used by another company. Start with Johnson. Oh, thank you, son. You broke my concentration. The issue is that a group of directors stood by and allowed Leroy Paris to use the money that you all were putting in insurance policies that should have been in like the insurance company, and to pray to bleed those companies of money to buy investments that now are not worth sometimes what they were bought for. But worst of all, that the directors of CLICO stood by and allowed Paris himself to benefit, as Kerry and others have told you, by these extraordinary payments of bonuses. Can you imagine a man in 2006 being told that he can get a bonus, a gratuity in 2008, and a bonus of $10 million? How many males in the public service of Barbados could $10 million employ? They don't have no conscience. You're giving a man commissions. He's drawing a salary. He's getting a $600 bonus a year. And on top of that, you take people insurance premiums and give him a gratuity of $10 million. That is the biggest, I call it pillage. It is the biggest act of pillage since the pirates and the buccaneers left the Caribbean. And let the responsibility lie where it lies. I've already said, and I want to say again, I'm not mincing my words. David Thompson had to know about it. David Thompson had to know about it. David Thompson, I believe, maintained an interest in what his law firm was doing. And this $10 million, CLICO prepared an invoice for services that it knew it did not render. To send, Sir Thompson Associates prepared an invoice for services it knew it did not render. They could only have done that if they were confident and had been told in advance that CLICO would take a false invoice and pay against it. And then CLICO take an invoice that it knew it was false and honored it. It seemed to me that this would have had to be closely coordinated. And that nobody low didn't do this. This was done from on high. And that is why justice has to be done. And the Democratic Labour Party have come to talk to you tonight. 2 ministers of finance, 2 prime ministers, and the governor of the Central Bank of Barbados have told the policyholders in CLICO and those who have invested in CLICO that they're going to get back the money. Now, when I told you in 1999, let me fix the button, bring in, introduce it, and within 9 months I come back and fix it, I did it. And when I told you all, I can pay about the 8% pay cut and the damn tax take of it, I did it. And when the Prime Minister gave his word, it not only must be honored, it must be bankable. And from now there are poor people in my constituency and I speak on their behalf tonight who heard you. And some went to banks and borrowed money to carry on their affairs until they get the money that the Prime Minister told them that they were going to get. And they have been left stranded now unless you honor what you say you are going to do. And Chris Sinclair says that come June it can get fixed. Now look, the Democratic Labour Party, the time for foolishness has passed. There are people in this crowd tonight who will suck salt if this is not fixed and fixed properly. There are people who have taken their gratuities, and I'm not talking about only about rich people. People have taken their gratuities and put it in these annuities in CLICO. In good faith. In good faith. And there's nothing worse than people coming to the twilight of their lives and having to live on a pension, and they find that you can't get the pension when it falls due. And that is the crisis of humanity that the madness of CLICO has imposed on the ordinary man and the ordinary woman in this country. And it must not stand. When prime ministers give their words, and the government is trying to give its word, and Minister of Finance give his word, it must mean something bankable to the ordinary man and the ordinary woman. They must feel, the government must feel that they can trust the government. And if this is not fixed, it is going to bring a great disruption in this country. The ordinary people will not feel that they can trust financial institutions. They will not feel that they can trust the word of government. People will be at large in relation to how they feel to relate to our economic system. This must be curbed. Now, if the government cannot honor its obligations, if it has put itself in a box of bricks, if it cannot come up with all of the money to pay back the principal, as Stuart has said and others have said, come and level with the people. This is a serious matter. People have to make provision for their future. Sinclair said you can do it by June. Can that hold? And may Motley, when you look at the estimates and lead their party in the estimates debate, I want you, the first thing to look for is whether Chris Sinclair is putting up the money that will give the people the assurance that they can get back their principles. That's the first thing you're going to look for this year. But look, some things got to be done. Some things have to be done. First of all, people who have life insurance policies must be assured that when those life insurance policies mature, they must get them. Because you have been encouraged by Chris Sinclair to continue to pay premiums. He tell you no premiums, no policies. So the first thing that has to be done is that we know that the assets held by CLICO Holdings Limited, that's not the insurance company, were paid for by the premiums that you put up in CLICO in life insurance. And the first thing that must be done is that those assets held by CLICO Holdings must be put under the ownership of CLICO Life Insurance so that the life insurance part of it can be secured. That got to be done. Next thing that must be done, fix the people who have pensions. Now, it's going to be complicated because the only other thing that you can compare it with is how bank deposits in this country are guaranteed. We have my government introduced a system to guarantee the deposits that you have in your banks. But they are guaranteed up to $25,000 because we couldn't afford to guarantee repayment of more than that. The question therefore is, Chris Sinclair, are you going to give back only up to $25,000 or are you going to do more than that? And if you can do more than that, tell us where the money is going to come from. But they feel that after the assets have been moved over to CLICO to settle the insurance part, that any other assets should be sold to be put at the disposal of those who have pensions arrangements with CLICO. And that the government must tell people whose pensions are invested in CLICO, I'm treating them as special now. Yes. Because it's a hard thing to live on a pension. How much money they can get back and how much money they are prepared to put up to let them get back their money. I really want to say this because we got to think freely in this country. That if it so happens that the government cannot afford to give back everybody all the money that they promised, then let me think freely. If the man has property and he has an income and there's a difference between the amount he should get back and what he can get back, let him over a period of time offset the difference against his income tax and his land tax. So that over time people do lose. We can't do that. So that if you were to get back 100 cow and they can only afford to give you 60, don't leave you stranded, man. Let you write off the difference over your land tax over a period of years and against the income tax. And if there are some companies, how much more time I got now? Enough more. Let's talk, man. And if there are companies that have invested people pensions in CLICO and can't get about all the money, let the companies write off the difference between what you can give them back and what they should get back against their corporation tax. So that you can do that. You can find something to give them. But above all, I want to join the platform of the Barbados Party tonight. And they say that this burden must not only fall on the taxpayers, because we must be our brother's keeper, but those who have profited improperly have to be pursued. And I'm calling, and I want to join the call that has been made by Kerry Simmons and May Motley and Dale Marshall and all the others. That don't make me alone pay. Don't make you alone pay. You know where the money is. Some of it is in Antigua. Some of it is in St. John. Some of it is in the two big cars that Paris just bought. A Range Rover for $700,000 and a Jaguar. He just spent $1 million on vehicles while people are sucking salt. Pursue Paris! Pursue Paris! Paris assets should be frozen. And the handsy politics of the Democratic Labour Party must now stop. Parliament is what this is about. You know what Parliament is when two people were living together and they had to pay for living together. But this has been a new concept, a new notion to the concept of Parliament. Paris can draw but not you. So I'm saying that part of the solution must be to pursue Paris and what he got, and to pursue David Thompson estate and what he left. And there may be others too. And they feel that the forensic audit, and I'm even in for the Commission of Inquiry, the forensic audit must be done now. And wherever it leads must be exposed. And there must be full transparency. And I want from this platform this evening to tell those who are suffering that the Barbados Labour Party will support any reasonable set of proposals brought by the government to do what is right with these people who will lose everything, not because of anything that they have done, but because of the wickedness of a group of financial bandits who have been encouraged by government to do foolishness with your money. So I leave you, my friends, in the presence of myself. I am just hopeful that election is called too soon. And tonight, Frondel and the Democrat Labour to leave you. I want to use the words of Cromwell to you. You have sat too long here for any good you have been doing. Depart, I say, and let us have done with you. In the name of God, Frondel, go! Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless you all.